Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Everyone, today I'm joined by my friend Brett Spiegel. He's the co-founder and COO of Koala, which we'll dig into in a little bit. I met Brett through one of his partners, or maybe he's not a partner, but he's definitely on your team. And it was great because in a couple seconds, I realized one of the case studies he was talking about was a mutual client, and that's Scratch Kitchen. So it was a bit of kismet. It was pretty awesome. And then since then, our relationship has grown quite well. But Brett, why don't you say hello, give a little bit of backstory?
Great. And thanks so much for having me on when you reached out. I was honored, and I've been excited to have this conversation. So thanks again. So as Joseph mentioned, my name is Brett Spiegel. I am the co-founder and COO at Koala. Koala is a customer experience platform. And I think we'll have a chance to kind of dive into what that means. But a little bit on my background. So I actually grew up in South Florida outside of Fort Lauderdale and went to college at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. As most people know, Orlando is the epicenter for casual dining concepts in this universe. And so as being one of those people that had to work through college, I did my tour of duty through many casual dining concepts and got my start in the back of house. I was a dishwasher. I was a prep cook, a line cook. I did some front of house as well. I was a food runner, server, and eventually a bartender at the famous TGI Fridays. And, I can't say enough to younger people how important I think it is, or at least an opportunity it is, to go work at a restaurant while you're in college, if you have the time. Super flexible hours. If you're front of house, you get some cash in your pocket every day, which is nice. And, working at a very busy full service restaurant on a Friday night is character building and soft skill building in a way that very few other things are at that age. And so, for all those reasons, get out there and try it out. And, for me, it just had a lasting impact. I mean, I went on from there to work at an independent film studio. I did some work in advertising and digital, and eventually, landed at a product agency called Fuzz, where I, oversaw the development of, hundreds of mobile applications and websites. But those skills that I learned early on about, calmness under pressure, how to speak to people, how to navigate, lots of challenges were instilled in me very early on in the restaurant days.
Nice. Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I mean, the restaurant industry teaches so many lessons across so many skill sets that are applicable to everywhere, honestly. From processes to interactions with humans and all of that. So I also cheer with you. Get a job in the restaurant industry. You'll never regret it. So let's dive into online ordering. So for restaurants, online ordering right now, it's at a fever pitch. There's so many competitors out there, from the POS systems who sort of tacked on online ordering a while ago and haven't really done much to fix it since then, to market leaders like Olo, who's I believe now publicly traded company. They've been, I think, absolutely the gold standard, to the aggressive up and comers like Lunchbox, who is trying to nip at the heels of Olo. What do you think makes for a solid online ordering system and a strategy for a restaurant brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really think that there are sort of, I would call it, 3 key approaches to the strategy of how you're going to ultimately the goal is to be able to provide, as a restaurant brand, provide your guests with a channel to order directly from you, right? First party ordering. And you mentioned some of the options that are there. And a lot of those options are either add-ons or purpose built. But there's a couple more potential approaches there. So one would be just custom build the entire stack, right? Build your point of sale, build your ordering channels, build the API, everything in between. I'm going to mention it and then we'll put it away because I think you have to be a little bit insane to kind of really go down that rabbit hole. Restaurants are sort of unique businesses in that they are a manufacturing center, right? They take raw material and turn it into a finished product on site. They're a hospitality center. They're an e-commerce center, a real estate company. They're in logistics. And so layering onto that a massive technology company as well is probably one thing they don't have to take on. But then you have some of these all-in-one solutions, like a point of sale that offers online ordering, or somebody like you mentioned, a lunchbox that's doing ordering and loyalty and lots of different things. And then the third one would be creating a partner ecosystem or a network of vendors that play well together to build a stack that touches on all of those different points. And I think that's the one where we're obviously most interested in going into, and where I think you're going to have the best outcome, because no one company is going to be great at everything. Mm-hmm. And so if you can find those players that are focused on doing one or two things exceptionally well, and then have a great partner ecosystem to connect to other like-minded organizations that are focused on doing one or two things exceptionally well, then you can have the best-in-class point of sale, the best-in-class online ordering engine, the best-in-class front-end user experience, the best-in-class CRM loyalty provider. It's certainly challenging to know with all of these options who is doing that, but you find the one that you like. Maybe it's your CRM, maybe it's your point of sale, maybe it's you're working with someone like Olo. And who are you working with? What does your partner ecosystem look like? What are the people that are offering best-in-class other components and bringing those together? And I think just further talk about like why that is the right approach is because if you think about, I'll just take an example of things that we don't get involved in at all. You're using your inventory management system to use their free KDS add-on that they have, right? Mm-hmm. The best and brightest minds at that inventory management system, like what do they focus on? What are the things that are keeping them up at night? What are the problems that they are trying to solve? Is it how to make the KDS better or build a better inventory management system, right? So all of these all-in-one solutions, their top talent is going to be focusing on a couple of areas, but these other things that might be more important to your business are not going to get as good of attention. And maybe they pivot, and maybe they just like shell them and start working on something else and you're sort of left holding the bag. So again, I think that a strategy that looks like, here are all of the components that we need, who is the best at all of these things individually, and how are they good at working together, and what are the proof points, what are the other brands that are using that sort of stack of technology. That I think leads to ultimately best in class across the board.
Yeah. It's interesting that Olo hasn't really jumped into the CRM space just yet. I don't know if it's in their plans or not. Whereas I think that's, like you said, Lunchbox's claim to fame. But you're 100% correct in that although Olo is probably best in class, we know that they don't really touch brands that are under, I think, 30 units, or maybe they upped it to 50 now. So if you're a small 10 to 12 unit brand, mm-hmm. they maybe make an exception, but really they try to, they'll make an exception, but probably not service you the way they're going to service like a 300 unit chain or anything like that. And so that means that Olo is really out of the picture. So you're looking at possibly a Chow Now or even a DoorDash white labeled system. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side of that is our friends, the pizza industry, which are somehow rarely a focus of these core products. So Olo notoriously just doesn't really work well with pizza. And the pizza companies that are out there focused on them really aren't making me impressed. I would say that they're really tough, and because of the high customization and how every order is unique and different, and mm-hmm. light sauce, heavy sauce, regular sauce, all this stuff, it just gets very convoluted. So it is kind of difficult to zero in. And I think one of the gripes that I've had with online ordering for the smaller guys is there's really no ability to make the customer experience tailored to the brand, meaning you get your place for a logo, and in some instances, maybe you get more than that. Maybe you get fuller customization, but all in all, you have like zero control over the user experience. So, what has your been approach to helping folks realize a better customer experience that's aligned more with the brand?
Yeah. I mean, for us, I mean, this is kind of like a bit of like the inception of Koala, but we, as I mentioned in my sort of career growth, I ended up at a digital agency that was doing custom software work, and we got our foray into the industry through Shake Shack. So Shake Shack hired us. I was the head of customer experience at the time, and we built for them, arguably one of the best ordering apps, at least at the time, that existed in the industry. We won a bunch of awards, at least. And we're like, great, this is look at problem solution. Like, let's just rinse and repeat this. The problem is that approach where it's custom software, it leaves so many brands behind because of the cost to do so, right? The outcome is obvious, right? This is beautiful, it's performant, it's on brand, but there's a massive barrier to entry for most brands, which is the cost. And so, we looked at the industry and we say, okay, on the one side, you've got, your point of sale will give you a free website where you can change the logo, maybe colors. On the other side, you've got working with an agency to develop, category defining digital experiences, and a massive gap in between. And that's really the initial inspiration behind Koala, where can we take our experience as an agency building best in class custom software, but approach it from the way the rest of the tech stack has gone, which is software as a service, right? Your point of sale is software as a service, your online ordering, your CRM, your inventory management, KDS, those are all software services. And the reason that those are incredibly effective is because you don't have to, as a customer, as a brand, pay for the upfront development, right? You pay a licensing fee, you get to benefit from all of that work. But for some reason, that experience layer was untouched for SaaS. Right? That has to be beautiful, unique snowflakes that cost millions of dollars. And we were like, let's just sort of challenge that assumption a little bit. And why can't we do what Squarespace has done for photographers and for wedding couples, and have like easy to use tools that give you a beautiful and highly performant, at the end of the day, website. And so that's what we looked at, is that gap between, free and functional at best, and beautiful, expensive, best in class, and said, let's try to see if we can put these right in the middle, very, very inexpensive, very approachable, very accessible, but still like high quality and high standards of excellence for what the end product is going to be. And built into that, tons of opportunities for the brands to be able to express themselves, to be able to customize the look and feel, but a heavy focus on modern commerce tools, which are driven by how can we do more conversions, how can we increase check size, things of that nature. So that was, our mission was to make premium accessible at the end of the day, very simply stated. And so best in class, building a tool in such a way that it could be affordable for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's really easy for smaller brands to look at the industry leaders and say, well, I want that. Mm-hmm. Like, I want the same thing for our brand. Yeah. But, we've been, at Vigor, we've been on the other side of the table, as it were, conversations about creating a custom online ordering solution. In fact, we embarked deeply on one for a pizza company that was a client of ours. And we did it at I would say, a lower cost than we probably should have. But it was more of a, let's see if we can get this. Because I think what a lot of leaders that are not in the either tech or marketing or MarTech space, it's like, what's the upfront cost?
Yeah.
Great. That's going to get you something, and it'll have the basic, but then how do you build it? How do you grow it? Now that's like an ongoing investment. And I think rare is the case where that's actually discussed, where it's like, it's going to be $500,000 to create a completely agnostic, like a device agnostic experience or responsive experience. Let's say $400,000 or $500,000 to do that, but then you got to grow it. And then
Yeah.
you got to start talking about extra features like upsells and combos, and how do you actually handle the deals, and how does that deal integrate with the POS system that you have? Can it integrate? And I think that's another thing. So let's
Hmm.
talk about integration for a minute. So there's been a sort of a great schism in the web world where um, there's the promotional marketing, quote unquote, website for a brand. And then you click order and you end up in this transactional
Yeah.
brand website. And that result is incredibly not seamless in experience. Maybe there's some correlation, but do you think this is detrimental to brands, or do you think it's like people are just used to it by now? And then how do you think we start to overcome it?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest things that sort of drives me insane about this industry. Retail moved away from this 2 decades ago. And it's a thing that, we are personally focused on fixing for this industry. And like I say, drag this industry kicking and screaming into the modern era when it comes to digital. I think it's massively detrimental. I mean, when you're thinking about what these digital experiences are, ultimately they're funnels, right? They are customer journeys, and you are, as a brand, putting up such massive roadblocks when you start with, like, look at this great LTO, we have this beautiful video, we have this imagery, like, really enticing for this new product that we're selling. Doesn't look awesome, buy it now. And then, okay, wait, go to a location search, find a location. Oh, you want delivery? Type in your entire delivery address. Oh, sorry, that location doesn't deliver to you. Try again. That one, okay, that one does. Now we'll go through. Here's the menu. What was the thing you were looking for?
And then you're completely lost. Yeah.
It's completely lost. And, like, how many steps along that process have you slowly had a little bit of a trickle of people exiting the funnel, right? And so, it's 100% detrimental. It's funny. So I don't know, Ivan Makovic, who is the CEO at SpendGo, gave a presentation at not the last RLC, but the one before, which was in 4 months prior. And he said to the audience, "Hey, everyone, take out your phone, go to your brand webpage, brand.com, starting place, and count the clicks to get something into your bag." And then everyone did that exercise, raise their hands. How many did it in 2? How many did it in 3? The majority of the room were more than 5, and some of them didn't raise their hands up until they were at 10, right?
Yep.
That is a massive problem. You would never experience that when you went to any either big box or even very small startup retail website. But yet this is where the restaurant industry is. You describe it as promotional marketing and ordering. We think of it as content and commerce. And we think that those are just the limitations of the tools built by the platforms. There are purpose-built platforms for content. You ever heard of the term CMS, right? Content management system? They just focus on content. And there are purpose-built tools for commerce. And, our mission here is going to be to create and deliver what we call a unified digital experience. And it is anything that is digital that a customer can interact with has both content and commerce tools built into it. So everything is shoppable. To what extent we can know the user, either because they're cookied and logged in, or we're just sort of making some assumptions based on where their IP is, where they're located, and start to tailor experiences that are personalized to them and allow them to one click get products into a basket, taking an assumption that everybody's in shopping mode. And great, you come to the website because you just want to learn about the brand, or you're looking for jobs, or you want to sign up to be a franchise. Those things should be easy to find, but we need to start from the assumption that you're a buyer.
That's
When
right.
we start from the assumption that you're a buyer, allow people off roads into the other things that are important for them, but just keep the buyers in the funnel and get them moving through as fast as possible.
Yeah, you make a good point. So I think the linchpin or the biggest difference between retail and restaurant is the method of acquisition. With retail, you're like, I know you could live literally anywhere in the U.S. and I don't care. We're going to get this to you.
Yep.
So that's not a big deal. You can start to load your cart up. And one of the hurdles that we have come up against is, well, if we load the cart up and then it turns out that they can't pick it up or they can't get it delivered, then they're going to be upset. Mm-hmm. And so one of the ways that we approach that, I was like, well, timeout. They could pick it up from any one of your locations. Mm-hmm. So even if I live in Georgia and your restaurant's in Kalamazoo, Michigan, if I'm saying I want to order food from that Kalamazoo location and I want to pick it up, it's none of your business where I live. Who cares where I live?
Yeah.
I'm saying I want to buy it there. And so I think there are ways to streamline that. But for people listening, I like to think of all user experiences as in real life. And so let's make a click a shifting of workstation or something. So if you think about it, if you walked into my restaurant and I said, go to that workstation and select if you want to do delivery or pickup. Okay, so I go over there. Okay, I'm done. Okay, now I need you to go here and tell me the address. Okay. I guess I'll go here.
Yeah.
Do you have pepperoni pizza? Hey, let's not talk about that. Tell me where it's going or where you want to pick it up. You know what I mean? It's like 5 of those moments. No wonder people drop off. You know, when it's like, I mean, 5 clicks is a bloody eternity.
Yeah.
And every single one of them a barrier.
And when you think about, you know, yes, there is a frenemy relationship, obviously, between the restaurants and the marketplaces, right? But that is, you know, your delivery partner and also your competition for the order. And those have massive teams of UX designers, of developers and PMs that are just building better products to reduce the clicks, to streamline the conversion. And that's who you're up against. And so, you know, just sort of putting these sites up, we got brand dot and order dot brand dot, checking off the boxes. You sort of alluded to earlier of like, you spend all the money, you do all the time, you get the thing up and it's great. Now what? You're competing against organizations that are continuously improving and optimizing and streamlining the user experience.
Yeah. And it's absolutely impossible to compete with unless you make a concerted effort to do so. And let's face it, I mean, a lot of restaurants, I would say a large majority of restaurants, delivery, it just simply wasn't a priority. You know, even online ordering wasn't a priority because that just wasn't their model. But the behaviors have shifted, as we all know. So how can brands optimize their online ordering experience to drive higher tickets? And we kind of talked about what's standing in the way, but how do we make it not so utilitarian? So I think, like you mentioned, that 3PD and some of these other providers, it is wonderfully utilitarian. You know, product, price, picture, order. But we know that we're in the business not so much of selling hamburgers, but of selling our hamburgers in our style with our vibe and our personality. And I think if we stick with the utilitarian approach, what we're doing is kind of like where we're bleaching out all of the personality that really drives people's purchase decisions after the first couple. It becomes a preference of brand, not just a preference of food. How do we even begin to tackle that? How do we get higher ticket averages and more traffic?
Yeah. Well, I do think that there is there's a couple different elements here. One, there is the very, tactful approach to, again, just to go back to it, because we're obsessed, like optimizing the funnel. And it is ensuring that you're focused on, these small micro interactions that catch a couple people from dropping off. Just as an example, we pushed, I talked about, how delivery search works on websites. We actually pushed a feature out recently we call advanced delivery search, which is just, you want to order delivery, let's just start with where are we delivering to? And then we'll, in the background, run the location search, go location by location, validate which one's going to deliver to you, and drop you on the menu for that location, right? This is all happening in microseconds. So for the end user, with autocomplete or even with now saved delivery addresses that we've launched, it can get down to one click from the start into a menu and the reduction of keystrokes. And we've seen a 7% increase in successful delivery searches from just launching those features, and a 2.5% conversion rate increase when we launched the one-click delivery search. So I do think that it's not necessarily sexy and branded, but it is important to be able to serve the guests. The sexy and branded stuff does come in with ensuring that the tools also allow for a bit of that content to come through, right? Content not just being, banner images or carousels or videos, but just like the ability to change your copy to be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more on brand. Obviously the colors, the fonts, the look and the feel, customizing the menu to tailor to your exact way that product customization works, and having a flexible framework to be able to make changes, to experiment, to see how those changes are affecting it. And as your brand continues to grow and evolve, very easily being able to update all of those things to make sure that your digital experiences are matching your in-person experiences. And then I think the last thing is personalization. And you mentioned Olo before. I know that Noah Glass, the CEO over there, has an expression where he's trying to make sure that every guest is a regular. And I think that digital has a massive role to play there. It can be driven by machine learning. If we don't necessarily know you, we can sort of analyze your behavior and the things that you're adding to your cart, create a profile of other people that look like you, and then create recommendations to you based on that profile that we're creating. Obviously, if we know you, we can sort of tailor content and tailor product or make recommendations directly to you, and really extend hospitality, which restaurants are phenomenal at in person, extend it to digital. And, maybe that wasn't a big deal 3 years ago when, 5 to 10%, if you were killing it, 20% of your orders were coming through digital. It's much, much higher now. The high watermark isn't coming down as we see, restaurants have opened up everywhere, and there's still a large, portion of revenue is being driven by digital. As, younger people start coming into becoming buyers, and we see, Gen Y and Gen Z coming up, they prefer digital first ordering. And so I think that extension of hospitality, again, to digital, and the tools that we can use to do that, whether that just be the brand that can come in and manipulate it the way that I want it to be, or we're layering in machine learning and algorithms to sort of real time create recommendations to people. All of those kind of work in concert to create really impactful one-to-one connections between the brand and their customer through these digital channels.
Yeah, it's amazing what's happening right now. I think what needs to happen is convergence. I think we're at the point in this part of the industry where convergence is waving its hands furiously. People are begging for it because we have so many different players where you could easily just get murdered by death by 1,000 cuts from all the SaaS out there. So it's like, I have my CRM SaaS, I have my online ordering SaaS, I have my POS SaaS, I have my kiosk, I have this, I have this, I have this. The next thing you know, every month you're just outputting tens of thousands of dollars. It's valuable because hopefully you're making a ton more. What's in the way of convergence between POS, kiosks, transactional site, promotional site, CRM, and the whole ecosystem of ordering and marketing products?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that so many, at least of these large legacy components, were built in silos in a world that it didn't matter. It didn't matter what the tech design was going to be of your menu and your point of sale, because it only had to talk to the KDS, and the KDS was the same company. So like, it doesn't matter. And you end up with, 300 plus point of sale options with 300 plus approaches to how to, from a sort of data, design, build menus. And, I just look at that and I just think like, God, we just need standardization. And I think that a layer of standardization, so that all of these things can talk together, what that reduces, like, honestly, like, cost to continue to expand, like us as a technology provider, providing that customer experience layer. We don't want to go do 300 point of sale integrations. That's incredibly expensive. We're going to have to pass that expense off to our customers at the end of the day. We want to partner with very big players that have very big reach, create a standardized way that we, look at menus, place orders, things of that nature, and then we can keep our costs low and keep our scale low, and continue to deliver on our mission to make premium accessible. So I think that the fragmentation, the silo development, the lack of standardization is really keeping, interoperability as a blocker to this convergence.
Yeah, I love that. So we've sort of talked about Koala underlying here, but let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our our marsupial mate. What is Koala? What's it all about? Why should folks be excited?
Yeah. So, again, we're trying to. So today, what we're doing is we are offering brands with premium first party ordering channels, right? So that is your website, your mobile apps, in-store kiosk, your in-store virtual pocket cloud kiosk, whatever you want to call it, and to some extent, associate tools as well, like line busters and drive-through order tablets. So it is that holistic digital interface into the ordering ecosystem. And in many cases, for many brands, it is the expression of their brand to their customers digitally. So another way to say it is we are the experience layer that sits on top of everything else. It wrangles all the pieces together and provides beautiful and performant interfaces for customers. And we're layering on top of that constantly better tools to be able to manipulate the front end with better expression of the brand, focusing again on these micro interactions to move people through the funnel. So we really think of ourselves as building commerce tools and tools that can be used and deployed to greater effect of driving conversion rates and check sizes. Part of that is machine learning, as I mentioned, for product recommendations. Part of that is just better interface solutions for how do I make reordering one tap? How do I make, delivery search one tap? Really kind of like focused on those sorts of things. So all that kind of bundled together is, best in class digital ordering.
I love that. So let's talk about digital ordering. You kind of talked about some things that are happening right now. And this is almost the final question, but this is a big one. What's next in the world of digital ordering? We talked about convergence. We talked about some of those other features, but let's maybe look not just down the road, but across the country or something like that. Like, in 5 years, what does digital ordering look like?
Yeah. Well, what I don't think it's going to look like is like us all eating in like virtual restaurants in the metaverse. As much of it's exciting to get sort of caught up in the buzz of Web3 and what Web3 can be for restaurants, there are some folks who their website just doesn't work, and so I would hope that in the next 1 to 2 years we can focus on just doing better basics. Like it's not exciting, but I think that the preparation of just better, like just better and more stable, solid experiences is what I'm hoping that this industry will start to take on. But beyond that, I think that digital's expansion into on-premise is something that's going to be super interesting. Like we think of digital mostly as order ahead. Obviously there are kiosks, but now we've got the QR code ordering, and all these other various ways that, that consumers can interact with the brand digitally. It's been in the car for a while. Yes, there will be the ability to, if you just cannot take your Oculus off, to order from a restaurant inside the metaverse, and all of these other sort of places that digital can allow the expansion of brands to go deeper and deeper into their consumers' lives. Like instead of just like clicking on an ad in Instagram and going to a website, like just being able to order within those applications and kind of stay within your experience and just like, yeah, no, I can go for some food. Great. Boop. And the food shows up. I also think that there's, I love the virtual brand scene. I think it's a lot of fun. Like we are just like naturally like experimental, and we want to try new things and kind of measure their outcomes. As some of these digital tools get better and better, I think that a brand's ability to like overnight pop up a really beautiful performant website or an app in the app store that's for this brand that just never existed days before, because the barrier to entry is so low, the capital investment is basically zero, and like really start playing and experimenting with not just brands on marketplaces, but brands having a bigger and more sort of permanent footprint in the world. So I think that stuff's going to be super interesting. And then obviously machine learning and AI's role on continually delivering, again, is I think just better hospitality by taking more data and inputs and creating better outputs that are custom tailored to every individual person. Like I would love to get to the day where you can go to a brand's menu and, let's say like we know that you usually switch to the gluten-free bun. Well, we're just going to go and do that for you. right? So now
Mm-hmm.
here's the full sandwich menu, all the sandwiches that you know and love, and you don't have to go in and switch to gluten-free anymore. We've done it for you. Or like, I don't like tomatoes. And so I would never have to say no tomatoes on something. It would just never be there, right?
Yeah.
One-to-one personalized menus. That's something that I think, hopefully will come up, and I think will be super interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you on the metaverse. I think it's kitsch. Maybe it's because I can't get over that it's pretty much Second Life, and I know
Yeah.
I'm like dumbing it down a lot, but I'm like, look, it's a cool thing. I get it. It's sort of Ready Player One ish, but we're almost. I think it's almost just like look over here, and it's not necessarily a diversion, but it kind of is. I think there's hype around it. What I see is better development of wearable tech being integrated into what we wear already, like
Mm-hmm.
glasses, like contact lenses, and then augmented reality. We already have something that could easily converge with how we see, which is our number one perception point. And that's Waze. You're driving on Waze, ad pops up for Starbucks or ad pops up for this, that, and the other. It's kind of the same thing where I'm walking down the street and I hate to make it about advertising, but hey, agency guy, what do you want? But that's really what's going to drive it is how do people make
Yep.
money on it? And, I see that as being a very real thing that's unobtrusive. And then you add in the layer of self-driving vehicles and how fast we are moving towards that. One, delivery becomes easier, but two, now distracted driving is less of an issue because I'm not even driving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can be served up with those ads in my eyesight and have it not be dangerous. I think that's like the whole new world, I would say, in 5 years.
It's true. We think of interfaces as screens, but interfaces are really just connections. And when I yell out to Google to play some music, like there's no reason why I can't just also say like, hey, I'm hungry, order me the sweet green salad that I normally get.
Mm-hmm.
I can sort of layer things on top of my world. It doesn't have to necessarily be a physical screen in your hand or on your desktop to be an interface into, commerce.
Yeah. And I see metaverse as kind of just being another, Pizza Hut was doing this with, I think, Xbox, where you're playing your video game and you could easily order Pizza Hut
Yeah.
pizza right from your video game. It's kind of the same thing in my perspective of it, but
Yeah. And that's great. Cool. Like do that.
yeah,
Great. But like, don't create a destination for me in the virtual world to go and like, look at your salad bar. Like,
that's right.
I get it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, cool. So probably the toughest conversation of this, or toughest question of this entire conversation, which is if you had one final meal, where would you eat? What would you eat, and why?
Yeah. So there's a bit of a story, I guess, behind this meal, as I guess probably most meals have a story behind it. So my wife is originally from Poland, and I thought it'd be really fun to force my family out of the country for the first time and have a wedding in the capital in Warsaw. So we did that, and it's a tradition in Poland for weddings to go until sunup. Ours was actually at a hotel, and so they said, "We're so sorry, we have to stop this at 5 because we have to set up for breakfast the next day." So it's okay, I guess we'll suffer. So we went till 5, and then also a tradition is to host the guests the next day at yet a continuational celebration of a big boozy brunch, and so we did that. And then we got on a plane and flew out to Paris for the honeymoon. Got to the hotel, dropped the bags, like, okay, we're exhausted. We're running off on 48 hours of just pure adrenaline, no sleep, but we need something to eat. And so it just turned out that right around the corner from our hotel was this, sort of looked good on Yelp steak frites place called Le Relais du Lettre Côte, which I'm sure I'm bastardizing, but we got there. We got lucky because apparently this place usually has a line, but we were able to get seated right away. We sat down, perfectly prepared steak, just absolutely delicious fries, and great wine. And it just sort of the last 2 days of just anxiety and emotion and energy just slowly started to melt away. And I was sitting with my wife for our first meal together alone, as a couple. It was, simple meal, expertly prepared, absolutely delicious. So you obviously can't order that meal, right? It takes an experience that leading up to it and the atmosphere and the moment to create the meal. But if they could package it up and have it to me in 30 minutes, I would I would buy it every week. But that's it. That one sticks top of mind for me.
I love that. I also have a Paris honeymoon story. This is a while back, but we got married in Amalfi, Italy, and then we went to Rome, Venice, Barcelona, and then we ended in Paris. And this is in July. And so let's just say we were in the habit of taking 2 to 3 showers a day just from being out in the heat. And it was wine, like drinking wine, not whining. And then rich pizza and pasta. And, we get to Barcelona, it's even richer food like paella and, again, more wine and more wine. By the time we got to Paris, one, we had a pleasant surprise that it was like about 50 degrees there, Fahrenheit. So we had to go buy jeans and hoodies just to like exist. But that was nice because it was a welcome change. But when we landed, same thing. I just looked at her. I'm like, dude, I just want a big fat beer and I want greasy fried
no more wine.
Food. Yeah, just for this meal, can I have this? And she was like, I'm with you. Where are we going to get that? There was an Irish pub literally right around the corner.
Amazing.
They're walked in
everywhere.
I was like, yeah, and they're the same there as they are here. And
all
I'm like,
corners of the world. Yeah,
that's all right. And so we walk in. I look at the menu. I was like, "Do you have a sampler platter?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's page 1." And I look at it, and it's all fried food. I'm like, "Yes, that. Thanks." And
yes, please.
Blonde ale, fried sampler platter. Yes, it's not healthy, but it was delicious. And I'll never forget
for the moment. Right
for the moment.
I mean,
that's right.
It's that comment. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the restaurants is you can always kind of have this, your life moment kind of coalesce with great food that's perfectly paired, and you remember it forever.
That's right. It's those magic moments, and that's what the restaurant industry is all about. Brett, thanks for being on. How can people connect with you and Koala?
Sure. Koala.io. And I'm Brett, BRETT, at koala.io. Simple as that.
Excellent. We'll have all that stuff in the show notes, and we'll also have links to your social. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your insights. I'm really excited about Koala, and I think hopefully the listeners are too after this episode.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
If you love what we've served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.